wonderful good morning, everybody, and welcome back here to my channel, God's Shadow. And what you're seeing on your screen right now is my current go-to list. So the main board's basically the same that I've shown recently. The sideboard has changed just a little bit. And I've had very decent results with it. Like for weeks I haven't had any bad results, so anything worse than a 3-2. Admittedly, a lot of 3-2s, but also a lot of 4-1s, so pretty happy with the list. Still room for improvement, but that's why there's a final version. This is the go-to list, and then the fine-tuning is going on here, where I'm going to jump into in just a second. So I just want to go over the sideboard here, as it contains Necroplasm, a card that I actually didn't know of existed before, like a couple of weeks ago, when I first saw it in a black-green Yawgmoth list. And this card I found is actually very complementary to the rest of our deck, and I liked it a lot playing it. So I was looking for a solution for both creature decks as well as all the token lists, right? So both current constructs and constructs from Urza Saga, which of course are the same, but also the tokens from Rhinos, for instance, as well as other creature lists. And Necroplasm actually does all of that, right? So turn 1, you bring it down, it kills all the tokens. And then from there on out, it just ramps up. You get a little bit of damage out of it. You can utilize it as a blocker, whatever. And it just puts your opponent under pressure because they always have to watch out. Like, if you bring it down, kill a couple of tokens, and your opponent draws a 2-drop or whatever, right? He can play the 2-drop, but then he also has to get rid of the Necroplasm beforehand, or he just has to win the game within, 2 turns, because otherwise the Necroplasm is also going to sweep that one off basically the next turn. Like, he only has 1 turn in between, so 2 turns for you. And therefore, I think it's very neatly designed. Of course, it also has dredge, so you can always get it back from the graveyard unless it's exiled. And of course, it also works well together with like Kolaghan's Command, etc. And since we don't really care about creatures on our side, and there's not really a whole lot that we need to protect, it just does its thing, runs through, rinse, repeat. So you can just continuously do it. And the good thing about this is that for Rhinos, they are playing, of course, Mystical Dispute, they're playing Force of Negation, so a Damnation is really, really difficult to actually deploy. And with Necroplasm, they basically have no answer unless they are firing it, so they have open mana to fire it as well. But they have to have 2 mana open instead of 1 blue mana source for all the other solutions you might have, which includes, of course, Hidetsugu as well. Hidetsugu also a good card, but what I always didn't like about it, and what I also mentioned in my last video, is that it also really doesn't complement our overall game plan, and Necroplasm really does, right? I can mill it over with Consider if I don't need it, then I still have it as a backup card in my graveyard. I can do, like, I can discard it, or can I have a discard from my hand against decks like Urza Saga or Jan Saga, I should say, which are also running discard spells. So there's a couple of options. I can always return it with Kolaghan's Command if I, want to draw other cards as well. So just a very good card, and I like it a lot. Like, it does exactly what I want to do in the deck, and I'm really sad that I didn't find it earlier. I don't even know why, but such a cool card, and it's never seen any modern play as long as I have been in modern. So yeah, that's something that I'm really happy about finding. And then one Alpine Moon, and the other new card here is Flame Blitz. So Flame Blitz, and you will also see it in the in-work version in just a second, is an attempt at closing the gap to 4C control. So right now, this deck that you're seeing here can go toe-to-toe with almost anything in Modern, but not really with 4C control. So 4C control is a deck where, you know, the stars have to align for you to win. Despite the fact that we have a lot of value already in the deck, it's just not enough. Ren 6 coming down on turn 2. Then Teferi as a follow-up, all these Omnaths, Risen Reef, you know, all these value creatures. And then, of course, their 8th card in hand with Yorion. In a combination, it's just a lot of value. It's very difficult to disrupt. And Flame Blitz is a card that's very cheap, and depending on the situation, you can just cycle it away if need be, but it just keeps the board clean, right? Most of the time after the sideboarding, your opponent will either board out or reduce their amount of prismatic ending, and therefore they have very little options of getting rid of the Flame Blitz, right? And so you're at least gonna get a 2-for-1 for it, with like killing a Ren 6, and then they somehow have to get rid of or find a solution or whatever. And or they bounce it with a Teferi for like 1 turn, but you can put it back down, kill the Teferi. So I overall like it a lot, Flame Blitz in that matchup, and it also helps in a couple of other matchups exceptionally well against Cable Coffers, like killing Corns, etc. It just keeps the board clean of all Planeswalkers. It's just a super potent card that also doesn't see too much modern play. So with that being said, let's jump into what I've been working on since a couple of days. So I've started making very tiny tweaks here, right? I've talked about Tasker before I went the other way with the list. But Tasker, in my previous testing, was always a good option against 4C elementals specifically, because it's a threat that, you know, Prismatic Ending cannot handle. They have to have a Solitude to deal with it, and it threatens early on the Ren and 6s, which is very important to me. And it also just, you know, if your opponent, sometimes your opponent's just waiting, like making land drops until they have a solution for like a double turn spell or a triple turn spell where you to blank your counter spells, etc. And Tasker really puts them into a situation where they have to be active, which I like a lot. And it also provides value, like if you ever get to, you know, 4 mana and then end of turn, you can just always get a little bit of extra value from the graveyard. We have to figure out if that really works. So that's the only mainboard change here in regards to spells. We have to check out if that works together with 2 Kroxa. It's possible that it's a little bit harsh on the graveyard, but we shall see. One change here shouldn't change the whole dynamic too much. And then the other change is that sometimes it's a little bit slow to play, like the second Tar Pit. So when the route of Otawara, also because the other option was I wanted to increase, like you've seen a couple of Murktide plays recently, and we've won most of them. I also still have 2 videos in the backup which contain Murktide decks. But those, like, we won them, but those were really close. And for that reason, I wanted to have another option of dealing with the Murktide. And either was going to go with the 3rd Brazen Borrow, which is an option, but I also don't want to, like, Brazen Borrow, for instance, is really bad against 4C elementals. So I don't want to sacrifice my percentages elsewhere just to improve my Murktide matchup. And the way I was going to do it is by adding Otawara back in here, also in combination with the Tasker and the Kroxa potentially, but we have one more legendary creature, so Otawara also potentially gets a little bit cheaper, which is pretty nice. But that's it for the main board changes. The sideboard hasn't changed at all because I'm really happy with the sideboard as is right now. And so from here on out, we're doing incremental changes, right? We're specifically looking for how Tasker performs and how well our mana base works out with an additional blue source and one less black source. And then we're gonna work our way up from there. That's it for the deck tech. Let's jump into a league. Alright, welcome to round number 1 here. We're on the play, and I think we're gonna keep this. The Crux is probably not gonna be relevant for a little bit, but the other cards are decent enough for the early game, and if we were to draw a Consider into a land, then we're off to the races in regards to Croxa. So let's see what we're playing against here. Alright, seems like we're playing against Merfolk. Starting off with an Ether Vial. So, Merfolk, I don't know about this version. If they're playing Wonder Wine Hop, it's possible that they're not running Spreading Seas, as they have white options as well. So I'm going to fetch here end of turn for a Triumph, and we do have the Cascade Bluffs to fix our mana a little bit, but of course it would be some sort of problematic. So I'm going to start off with a mountain here. It could be problematic if they are going to Spreading Seas my Xana's Launch here. Alright, so he kicked it, so he's probably going to go for the Triumph. So this is basically the Spreading Seas. That's not a Spreading Seas, but I don't really mind it. I think it could go, like just in case, I could go with Black Source here. But I'm going to get rid of the reds. Yeah. Okay, so he played this as a kicker. So I'm going to wait if he does have another 1-drop here. And which he doesn't, apparently. And then in his upkeep, I'm going to try to K-command him. If he does have a counterspell, then we're still slowing him down. And also this plays around Force of Negation pretty well. So, pretty fine with the play. Also did work out. Discarded a Merfolk Trickster. And then, depending on what our opponent's doing here, I'm probably going to go with a Snap Bolt. Or just a Lure of Atlantis here. That's not too bad for us. I'm still gonna go with the main phase Snap Bolt. We do have enough in our back pocket, I think. Even if this gets forced, I still think that we can dig out of it. And this way we would even get a 3-for-1 basically, so that would be fine with me either. And these are exactly the matchups where I wanted to have a little bit of support. Of course, one can say that Plague Engineer is just a little bit stronger in this particular instance. Interesting that he's not going with a Kika here, because we only still have one black source. So does he have one like a Spell Pierce? But then you would have had to draw it like last turn, right? And a Spell Pierce isn't as relevant here. So let's try to go with that first. Okay, put it on auto. So I'm gonna just pass the turn here, because otherwise I would like to find another land. But I also don't want to waste my mana here in regards to the Bold and Cascade Bluffs. In this turn forces me a little bit to make this open play instead of looking for another land with my Consider. But that's not such a big issue. Another K command would also be very decent. Alright, so this is an issue. So now I need to actually find a fetch land. There's a counter spell, which is fine, but there's a fetch land, and that's finer. Okay, so we're gonna go. Obviously, still, if my opponent does have a force backup, then we might have an issue here. No, he's pausing. All right. Otherwise, I might have just kept back both Snapcasters in order to potentially like block this, because he needs two other Merfolks to be indestructible. But it's a very, very strong card. Yeah. I really like that Merfolk has gotten so much support in these last couple of years. Like very many sets that really had a couple of important Merfolk. And this one by this McKinney or whatever he's called, it's just beautiful artwork as well. Alright, so what Merfolk is this? So we're playing against Jeskai Merfolk here with Prismatic Ending in the main. Very interesting, very interesting. Indeed. Alright, so there's some sort of creature. Okay, so our opponent apparently... Oh, yeah, I'm gonna respond here to the trigger. Just in case. But apparently my opponent did have two drops in hand. Like, he took too much time there. So this... Can I solve this? No, I cannot, right? I either have the Drown Lock Up or the K command, but I cannot... or the Kroxa, I'm sorry. It's very early. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing this before work, right? By the way, just to get you some content during the week. So I still think we're gonna go with the Kroxa here, so that if he doesn't do anything, we do have a play next turn, and otherwise we have two removal spells, which is also fine. Discarding a Lore of Atlantis, definitely a pretty good hit. Let's see. Another one of those, okay. Alright, so I don't want to be super greedy here, therefore... I'm just gonna kill it. This is the only card in their deck that can really, like, equalize this game at, you know, a moment's notice. Like, if you leave it unattended and then it does get support by a couple of Merfolks, then it's super difficult to come back from that situation, especially if you're running low on mana resources. I think I really like the ward mechanic. I think it's way better than like having hexproof or whatever. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead here. Could have a counter spell, of course, but I don't really mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. Let's see what he discards. Let's already look ahead here a little bit to our sideboard. Okay, so it does have, definitely does have two creatures in hand. Our opponent actually didn't have a bad draw. Like turn 1, Vial, a lot of good creatures here. Yeah, I think our opponent actually had a very decent hand. But now, of course, it's very difficult for him to get back here into the game. So he could be playing Unsettled Marina. Oh, okay. That was the other card in his hand. Yeah, that's fine. Then we just got to do it with good old Snapcaster. So obviously, due to the Lurus ban, these Merfolk lists also lost a little bit of equity. Especially like these white lists. On the other hand, though, they weren't able to play Svilelen at the same time, so maybe it's actually not that much of a drawback. Yeah, I think, again, I don't know about like the contents of his hand, but I'm trying to keep the board clean. Alright, so there was a land which was a 1/1 hub. It comes into play tapped, so either another land in hand. Okay, so Otawara is actually something that I want to keep in hand here. There is an argument that the Creeping Tar Pit at this point would probably be a better draw. But Otawara isn't bad either. Especially because I can also target my own creatures. So here, from this point, in case my opponent does something here, I could just go, like, especially against a prismatic ending or something like that, I could just go and bounce my Snapcaster for a Lightning Bolt. I don't think my opponent does have instant speed interaction anyway, so I could still do it end of turn, or at least try it. I don't think there's anything that my opponent can do to stop this. Yeah, he also... And there's Hole of Storm Giants, okay. So let's see. if I get to cast this. Lightning bolts. Does have a counter spell. Spell pierce. Okay. Okay, that's actually good to know. So, very relevant information here that our opponent is indeed playing spell pierce. That he also probably won't take out. So, two very important things here. One hand, they are playing Prismatic Ending. On the other hand, Spell Pierce. So, in regards to Prismatic Ending, the Croxa isn't as good. Brazen Borer is still alright. It's also not great, but it's okay. I definitely want to bring in the two Necroplasms. And I probably can't do a whole lot else, right? Croxa might still be better than Grixis command, Cryptic command. And Unlicensed Hearse is also something that I want to consider. I think I want to go a little bit heavier on creatures here. I guess the Armage Charm is still fine, but especially against like Spell Pierces, etc., I just don't want to really play it. Doughty Voidwalker is okay-ish. Flusterstorm doesn't make sense. We haven't seen any creature lands, therefore, like a Fulminator Mage, etc., might not make a whole lot of sense. But we could go with an Alpine Moon, of course, just for Cavern of Souls, which our opponent's probably playing. And then I think just 3 Doughties, as they can put our opponent under pressure and we'll get the creature out of it if we really need to as well. Nah, I don't think I'm going to keep this on the draw. This is slightly better. We're going to keep this, and I think I'm going to ditch the Alpine Moon here for the time being. I first want to see that my opponent's actually bringing Cavern of Souls to the table. Silvergill. Alright, so Silvergill is going to come down turn 2. Interesting. And I think I want to kill the Silvergill with a Consider. So he doesn't have a turn 1 play here. I want to kill it with the Bone Crusher Giant, of course, not with the Consider. So I'm going to start off with a Snow-Covered Mountain, also because it plays around a this kicked thingy that can transform our lands, and we have to protect our Blood Crypt to a certain degree. But more importantly, I think that Spell Snare right now is a supremely underplayed counterspell. So basically any deck is playing very relevant 2-drops right now. Is, you know, Red and 6 for the multicolor decks. There is like, you know, all these 2-drops that are not super relevant in the meta, but there's Expressive Iteration for all the blue base decks, and so there's a lot of stuff running around right now. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go here. Fetch for a basic red source and try killing it with a stomp. Because then next turn, if they are playing the Sylveon, the 3-mana thingy, then I still have the Failed Push-Up, and I can also go with the Bone Crusher Giant, which is pretty decent. Yep, there we go. So up until this moment, I haven't seen... a force yet, so just gonna go here. If he does have a force though, then we might have an issue, but that's not the case. So we're good for the most part. Alright, so it's playing Mutavolt. Also very relevant for our Alpine Moon. Oh, it's a rest in peace, okay. Yeah, that works. And that is, of course, a good option for, like, white-based shenanigans here. So that means my Snapcaster's coming in. Drownloch. I mean, Drown can still go after the Mutavolt, so it's not completely dead, but it's pretty dead. I'm gonna play this right now. This one comes in tapped. And then we shall have to see. Like, from this position on, it's gonna be pretty difficult, I think. Crux doesn't do a whole lot of stuff. Tasker is mostly dead, as are many others. Let's see. Alright, so goes on the Mutavolt here, which probably means that he doesn't have another Lord, right? No, doesn't. Interesting. Okay, so that's good for us. I think I'm just gonna play the Steam Vents tapped. Go with the Croxa, which at least is still a 1-for-1. Then I'm gonna hold back the Snapcaster Mage, I think, and I'm gonna get in with the Bone Crusher. Oh, it does have Counterspell. No, Merfolk Trickster. Oh, okay. So it wants to tap my Bone Crusher Giant. I guess. Alright, that's weird. So I think this turn we're gonna try to stem the bleeding, which means that, okay, Hollowed Fountain, so he's gonna attack for at least 5. Counter Magic could improve his situation. Might still have a Spell Pierce, of course. And he could also just block here. But if that's the case, do I mind? Probably rather have a blowout next turn. Because he cannot really do a whole lot against the Otawara. Let's see. Meddling Mage in a Merfolk deck. Never thought I'd see this, but apparently it's a thing. So obviously, like in these tribal matchups, the Necroplasm isn't as strong as a potential Plague Engineer would be. But it's also not bad. Like, a Plague Engineer also wouldn't be able to kill all these creatures, but a Necroplasm, given enough time, actually would. Therefore, I don't dislike it. I really don't. Okay, so we're trying to go after the Mutavault. I'm kind of expecting a Spell Pierce, but there's not a whole lot that I can do about it. I'm happy that we, like, if we can still trade 1-for-1 here, that's fine. And then this turn, we're gonna bounce the Master of Waves, and then we're gonna go after the Merfolk Trickster. Our opponent also boarded a lot of cards, therefore... I mean, Dori... Yeah, the turn afterwards, maybe. The Snapcaster Mage basically is holding, so... Do I want to go into a race here? The problem is that with each turn that, you know, passes, the likelihood of another Lord increases, and therefore, like, I cannot really blow them out. So I think I'm gonna wait for one turn here, where I'm just gonna attack with a Snapcaster. Very unlikely that my opponent's gonna take the trade here. Although, it's also a little bit suspicious. And well, it's not because of these two. Maybe it's not. We shall see. I guess the worst thing to happen would be like a 3-mana prismatic ending. Which this is. Yeah. Alright, so I'm gonna let this resolve, and then I'm probably gonna go ahead and I'm gonna like return my own creature, because that's still like a very decent play. I think we're gonna take a lot of damage here, not gonna lie. So that's gonna 7, going down to 5, but I can kill the Lord. I'm getting a very decent trade here still, and of course now like the attack with the Snapcaster Mage is a little bit you know. Alright. Alright. So we're gonna stomp here. Probably should have done that differently. Like, I could have also played... Yeah, this was bad. I should have tapped these two for those, of course. Anyway. Basically bluffing a counterspell. So next turn we can deploy those two, but we would have had like the Doughty on the battlefield earlier, which is decent. So we already had a lot of shenanigans here with Otavara, and I can't say that I dislike it, so it's pretty decent. Opponent does have another Merfolk Trickster and a Mass of Pearl Trident in hand. Alright, so from this point then, we're very unlikely to get back. I would need to draw another removal spell here off the top, which of course is possible, but... Okay. I think I want to go with one Archmage Charm here over one Doughty. Maybe even like this. Like, that in case we get hit by a Rest in Peace, that we have a little bit more options. And this is probably the worst hand that possibly be drawing. Shoot. Yeah, think I'm gonna ditch the Snapcaster, because we do have a couple of polluted deltas, and this way we at least have a viable turn 2 play. Okay, it's a Tide Shaper. So we haven't really seen any Cavern of Souls from our opponent yet. This time around, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with my fetches, I think. Alright, another K command. I think we're just gonna play it out here. We don't really have another good play anyway, and as long as we can keep his creature count on the battlefield low, we're gonna do it. Hopefully not the Sevalovan. Alright, it's an unlicensed Hers, which is actually okay. So I'm going to wait for creature here to be deployed to go after it with the K command as well. Oh fuck. Yeah, that's the absolutely worst outcome. That's really, really bad for us. Really, really good for our opponent. Like, if he does have a backup Spell Pierce here as well, then we're probably fucked. Nah, it does have a Spell Pierce as well. No? Okay. But now we really need some support. Like, this is really an issue. Okay. Alrighty. So let's discard his card in hand first. Another Trickster. I think I just bounce this right now. And then another land would be decent. Well, okay. So this, wow, this is gonna be super rough. I mean, we can probably get the Croxa back next turn. He's gonna draw additional cards off of this shit now. we definitely need a little bit of help. Okay, he's at least attacking with both here. So I can block the tide blue, blue, blue. This is going to be very difficult from here. I don't think I want this. And I need one more card in my graveyard as well. That's bad. That's really, really bad. That's really, really, really bad. So I do have the stuff for Truxa now, but I first also need to get around the lore of Alanis, which I cannot do this turn. Which means, like, and if I get rid of the K command, then I don't have a solution for lore of Alanis. And this thing now has Island Walk, and is basically a 3-turn clock. I don't think there's a lot that I can do. Lord of Atlantis here, just supremely good draw by our opponent. I don't know if we can raise him here. He's gonna draw 2 cards each turn. He's gonna be able to just deploy them. So that's already lethal. Now we really need help off the top of our deck. And that's not it. That is definitely not it. Wow. That was extremely unlucky in many regards, I think. Alright, welcome to round number 2. We are on the play, have an absolutely unkeepable hand, and I think I'm going to keep this. I'm going to ditch 1 lightning bolt. And then the question is, so which creatures do I really want to kill turn 1? Basically only a Goblin Guide and potentially a Ragavan, I guess. But I also do want to play the Consider. The problem is that this Scalding Tarn cannot really be a black-blue source. So I have to fetch it for Triumph, which means that this turn I cannot deploy the Consider. Unless this is a Ragavan or a DRC, then I'm just going to bolt it. Alright. I'm gonna let that resolve. opponent might not yet know. Interesting. So now I'm happy with my choice because I don't have a black source right now, but I am able to counter a Ledger Shredder in his turn, which is probably more important because I currently don't have a good solution for that. Okay. There is the black source slash Snap Bolt, which provides us with a little bit of extra value again. No, don't need to put this away. And yes, we want to put this away. Alright, so now we only need to find basically a filter land, and we can get the Croxa back. And that's also something that our opponent will have to play around to a certain extent. Excuse me. Another DRC. So I'm gonna let this resolve, and then I'm gonna try to bolt it. Obviously there's a counter spell here that is protecting this DRC. So if he's gonna try to protect it, he might be light on threats in hand. So that might be a thing. And now we're in the typical spot where we're looking for mana. We can play everything in our hand right now, which is fine. Yeah, this might be right. An iteration, which I'm definitely going to go after. Might have a Spell Pierce, but then still he's stepped out. Consider. So our opponent's also looking for lands here. If we find a filled land that would be very, very good, then we could deploy the Croxa on the play. Our opponent doesn't, and we have something as a backup, which is also fine. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Snapcaster Consider here, because I really, really want to find, like, we don't have a whole lot at instant speed here anyway, and I really, really want to find more lands. Yep, that's a land. Not the land that we needed, but that's a land. And now basically any black source gets us to deploy the Croxa. And of course now we also do have Cryptic Mana, which is also good. So this might be removal spell followed up by a Ragavan dashed. Hopefully not exiling a black source here. So our opponent's playing it very, very... Okay, it's an Archmage's Charm. Which, you know, would have been a good draw for us as well. But I think it's still okay. Alright, so... Obviously, our opponent might have another Unholy Heat. That is a very real possibility. But I think we need to take the opportunity here that our opponent is tapped out. Yeah, I'll probably want to have the ability to return the Snapcaster Mage. So it's at least going to be a 2-for-1, but it's basically a 3-for-1 as we put it into the bin with our Consider. So yeah, that's pretty decent. Discarded the Ragavan, or one of his Ragavans. I assume that he doesn't have more. Interesting. Let's see. So it's possible that we are running into at least one Murktide here. No, it's a Ledger Shredder, which we can deal with. That is kind of okay. And now he's basically tapped out. Probably trying to find another Unholy Heat here. Discarding Counterspell. Interesting. So he won't be able to stop our Bloodsheath Thirst one way or another from killing that Ledger Shredder. And I could also return the Snapcaster Mage if I really wanted to. Okay, so Snow-Covered Island doesn't do anything here. So I think... So also some of Hall of Storm Giants is up soonish. So I'm gonna attack first. See if he wants to block. Probably not, but... Still want to see. And he's discarding counterspells left and right, which is interesting. Yeah, he won't be able to counter this. And then we do have some options still. Our opponent definitely, like, he has to play around the Hall of Storm Giants as well. If he fetches here, he's down to 6. Also, if he utilizes the thing, so both the Croxa and the Hall of Storm Giants are lethal. And, alright, this is going to be... So what I'm going to do is... Because my Brazen Borer is more important... I mean, in theory, I guess... I could also try to go with... I mean, he probably does have Counterspell, right? But probably only one. So... If I go here with Brazen Borer, then I get a clean 2-for-1 with a K command. I could also... Archmage Charmer is a counterspell. That is fine. And I think that's also GG. I mean, now it's GG anyway. I don't know. Like, we haven't shown him K command yet, so that might be irrelevant for the hearse. Yeah, let's just attack with both here. Alrighty. So game 1 is ours. Game 2, we're gonna take out all of our really mana inefficient counter spells here, and we're putting in these plus the Fluster Storms I also want to have. So Tasker is decent. Brazen Borer I need. Bonecrusher Giant is okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with 62. I guess I could get rid of like the Bonecrusher Giant. I think that would be okay. It's not as good in this matchup. We are on the draw as well. We reduce our curve here significantly. So the issue with this hand is that my Drownaloch isn't online turn 2. I'm still gonna keep it, I think, because it's probably better than any 6 I could draw. Oh, it's a Snow Cavern Island first. Okay. So our opponent might be playing some sort of does he have a Blood Moon hand? So I won't be able to do anything with a polluted delta anyway, right? So I'm gonna shock here. I'm gonna kill that thing. Unless our opponent does a Force of Negation. And then I'm gonna leave the polluted delta up. Does have a force. Interesting. Discarding Murktide Regent. Alright. I think this is something that recently happened. Like, most people didn't play Force of Negation a while back, but recently I've seen multiple of these lists with Force of Negation as backup. So we do have a counterspell now, so I'm willing to kind of go for it in case it's necessary. The Ledger Shredder is currently not doing anything, which is good. And we're trying to counter it. Also, oops. Because I want to have him tapped out to kill the Ledger Shredder with my Drownaloch. He certainly doesn't have another force. So my cat's standing in front of my door again, demanding entry. Oh my goodness. Yes, cat, come in. Alright. So that's interesting. Our opponent did actually go with an expressive iteration here and was super lucky that he found the Mishra's Bauble off of it. Otherwise, like, that would have just been wasted. So if we find a... no, we actually don't need a fetch land. I can already deploy the Tasker, which is really nice. Alright, so let's kill this. Unless they have another force. In which case we might be fucked. But now we have Tasker in play, which, like, our opponent did actually discard an Unholy Heat, so maybe, like last turn, or last game, they actually don't have a solution. I'm very sorry for the cat noises in the background. She's still very little and very annoying. Now she's trying to touch the microphone. Alright. We gotta go out again. Yeah. Go. Go. Alright, now it's getting crowded in here. Alright, another land. It's possible that our opponent is still gonna play the Blood Moon here. Oh, it's gonna be Murktide with how many? 3, 4. It's gonna be 7/7. It's gonna be problematic. I mean, we still have Tasker up to get us a little bit of extra value, I guess. Du kleine Bitch, du. Nein, kein Touchy-Touchy. Alright, just give me a second, I'll be with you. Alright, so we do have a Flusterstorm. And then next turn we also do have 7 damage. So let's talk about what is lethal here, or what could be lethal here. So he's gonna go. Oh lol, that's pretty lol. So I think I'm gonna go ahead here, and I'm gonna deploy my K commands, putting them down to 11. And then depending on whether or not my opponent still does have something to play here, does have a mystical dispute, but that doesn't do a whole lot. So now yeah, we basically need a Brazen Burrow of our own, right? Yeah, my girlfriend isn't really a help in these matters. Like, alright. She just won't leave. Yeah, so if we were to find a Brazen Borra here, or an Odawara actually a better card for us in this circumstance. Our opponent does have plain nothing. Ooh. No, that's pretty close. Like, it's exactly 1 damage here. That's missing. Oh, that's super close. Sad. But okay. I think boarding is still fine. We're on the play this time around. The Murktide region. So our opponent's actually playing a somewhat different list, I think. Yeah, I think I can keep this. I'm gonna start off with a tar pit here, as we only have sorcery speed interaction anyway. And then we already have our snow-covered island in hand, so we might have to consider finding a polluted delta to fetch for a swamp. Alright, our opponent with the weird plays here. So I think I'm gonna fetch beforehand. The only card that I really would replay here is another consider. Drown Lock, certainly not one of them. And there is a... So I want to keep the option open of going with a Snapcaster Mage end of turn. And I think I'm going to play the Snapcaster Mage into almost anything here. Alright, so that's a Ledger Shredder. I'm pretty sure that my opponent does have a... either a Spell Pierce or another solution for it. Another consider. Yeah. I think that's fine. As we're gonna play the Bloodsheath Thirst, and then we potentially have like Drown plus something else up. Discarding the Unholy Heat again. Alright. So let's try this. So that play makes a whole lot of sense for our opponent. He was looking at the top of his deck in order to potentially find another counter spell or force of negation. So if he wants to counter here, then we're forced to trigger the Ledger Shredder. Although neither Spell Pierce nor Flusterstorm would have done anything there, so well. In any case. So if we counter this, then he might have a Murktide Regent, right? Can we get rid of the Murktide Regent? This is a 5/5 at that point. I think I want to try to counter this. Yeah. Did have a Spell Pierce. And I'm fine with this. As long as I don't get hit with the Murktide Regent in this very instance, I'm very, very okay with it. Also, depending on what my opponent plays here, yeah, Misty Rainforest, probably fetching for 3, because he needs another red source. Or he does it end of turn. Okay. But that already, like the Fury Islet, I don't know. Seems risky. Yeah, I'm not gonna get rid of that. And there's Croxa. So. I think I'm gonna be very aggressive here. Is he gonna shock? Okay, he isn't. But our opponent does have... Alright, so he's at 11. We can put him down to 5, including 2 Snapcaster Mages on the battlefield and the Creeping Torprint as a backup, plus a Bold and a Croxa as backup. So the best thing that our opponent can deploy is a Murktide Regent, although a Ledger Shredder is probably also very decent, right? Ledger Shredder with backup or Murktide Regent with backup, both are very decent. But our opponent. Thank you, opponent. But that also means, like, if he wants to utilize Counterspell, that puts him down to 4. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it here. Play around what I can play around. And we do have a Murktide Croxa as well. But I think we're already, like, in a spot where my opponent is hard pressed to find solutions. Okay, it's a Ledger Shredder and a Scalding Tarn. This is super interesting. So I'm pretty sure that my opponent does have a counterspell, right? So what can I do here? So the Ledger Shredder didn't trigger. Our opponent aggressively went after the Unholy Heat. I do have the Crux-Ab though. And the Tar Pit is always a threat. I need to get rid of the Ledger Shredder though. First, right? So what happens here? If I force him to utilize both, then the Lightning Bolt is dead. Alright, so I think I'm gonna deploy everything. So I'm gonna try to kill Ledger Shredder with this. If this doesn't work, then I still do have the Crux and the Lightning Bolt to kill the Ledger Shredder, right? But if he goes with a counterspell here, which he didn't do, so now my Lightning Bolt is also lethal. And now only a Force of Negation can save him. And we still have the Crux back up. Perfect. GG's. Alright, welcome to round number 3. And yeah, I think I'm going to keep this. Our opponent's on a mulligan. 2-5. Let's see. And he's not a 4C list. So either Tron or Living End, I'd say. Oh, I was on the wrong side of the keyboard. So I want to say I want to go with the Creeping Tar Pit, but I'm just going to lead with the Polluted Delta here. Reason being that I read Mesa, so I hope that it's not Living End, because that would be weird. Yeah, but it could be some sort of very aggressive or hate beer list, and therefore I want to have the fail push to be there if I need it, but apparently that's not the case. So no clue what our opponent's playing here. Now I'm gonna go with this. And then depending, like we have to figure out what we're playing against here. Fetching for planes could also be a Blood Moon deck. I have no clue what's going on. No clue what's going on. Reveals Esper Sentinel. Alright. So I think there's a valid reason here to just bounce the Ranger Captain. But I'm gonna let it be. So, in case he does have more Ranger Captains, like he didn't have turn 1 or 2 plays, so in case he does have more Ranger Captains, I'm gonna go and be ready with the Archmage's Charm, and otherwise, I'm just gonna push the Sentinel, which is fine as well. Could also take over the Sentinel, I guess. Alright, it's a Sword of Fire, of whatever. Do I care? I don't actually think I do. I can just bounce the Ranger Captain if I really want to. I can bounce the Sword of Feast and Famine. Yeah, you can have that. Alright, so now at least I know what we're playing against. We're playing against the RW Moonblade, I think. So this list is definitely running Blood Moons. So I have to take care and probably keep also my Brazen Boar up to a certain degree. So what my opponent have played? Do I actually want to bounce this thing? Just bounce that. So we're just waiting for a moment where we actually do find a fetch land. And blood. No. Okay. Not a fetch land. Fervent Champion. Actually a cool card. Actually a really cool card. So I could take it over with Archmage Charm actually. Or I could just destroy it, but I think it's better if I take it over. As he cannot redeploy it in that moment then. And it does have first strike. Alright. So we did find a fetch lands. I want to wait if my opponent has another play here. If he doesn't, then we're just gonna return the sword. And then I don't know if I want to fetch right now. Like a Blood Moon still gets us basically. But I also don't have, like, I cannot take this and fetch Shock at the same time, so I'm gonna just do this and kill that. Was a little bit of a struggle to get rid of this fucker, but went anyway. Good, no Blood Moon. That's very good. And from here, we finally have a good position. Yeah, don't care. Play the planes. Alright, and then we get our Brazen Borer onto the battlefield and just protect it. Yeah, that works as well. Probably another prismatic ending. No, it's Caldera complete. Alright. Also, he's just 1 mana away from casting it naturally, but... So now we do have a decent handle here on the situation. We're gonna replay Necroxa. And then we have lethal next turn. Alright, so our opponent's super all in with the artifacts. Also, up until now, we've only seen white spells. But I strongly expect that there is also going to be Blood Moons in there. So I want to maintain all my Ds. Probably expecting a Sanctifier, so I'm taking out 1 Croxa. I want to have the Necroplasms, because they're good against basically everything in their deck. And then I'm going to take out 1 Cryptic Command. I think that's it. Yeah, let's keep. No Esper Sentinel turn 1 is already a good sign. So, strongly expect that turn 2 is going to be a Stoneforge Mystic. So I'm going to play this tapped. I want to have the Scalding Tarn be able to fetch a basic land. Yeah. Caldera complete. So now we're running a little bit too high here on lands, but what are you gonna do? Lion Stash. Right, I'm still gonna fetch for a basic here. I just, you know, want to maintain all the options that we have. Obviously, our snaps are out of the window for the time being, but we should have quite a bit of... Alright, and only permanents give him extra things here. That's why he took the Scalding Tarn over a Bloodchief's Thirst. So I strongly expect my opponent to do something, but if he doesn't, then I have the Archmage's Charm to find a couple of things. So right now he only gets up to being ooh. So do I want to deploy it right now is the question. Our opponent is only playing 2 colors, so he's very unlikely. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wait for one more turn. Like, he can eat his own stuff if he wants to, but he's not eating anything. Just waiting and... oh, maybe now? No? Okay. So Xander's launch, because we need the double black. Alright. And then we're gonna go with that. And then let's see if they can handle this. We have another one as a backup, which I like. It's gonna take 2 turns until we get to line stash mana. And he could just be very aggressively eating here. Thus, maybe it makes sense for us to also deploy an end of turn Snapcaster Mage. Just to block. If he goes all in here and just eats everything. He's just fetching for planes. I really want to play around. He's not eating his own stuff. So let's see. I'm gonna let this resolve. I don't really mind. I don't even know if he's playing. Yeah, and he put me to 6 very specifically, so I assume that there are bolts, but he currently only has 1 red mana. 2 red mana. Alright, so, yeah. I could go with another Necroplasm here as well, instead of a Snapcaster. He will eat that though, so... maybe I even want to go to 4. Because then I have 2 counter spells. It doesn't change the dynamic on anything else. Solitude. No. What? Also no. Alright, so my opponent apparently just had a very mana heavy hand here. So now that really doesn't matter. So the K command also could take care of the line stash, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and, well, actually I want to have the... So before I didn't attack with the Necroplasm because I did want to have a backup. So I have no clue whether or not they're playing Lightning Bolts. That's an issue. but I don't think I can let this resolve. Because there could be... I don't even know what kind of shenanigans they're playing. Alright. That's not a big deal whatsoever. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so now we're attacking for 4 here. We do have another Snapcaster up, which is also very nice. I can go... I think return and discard is good. Alright, just Necromisa. Necroplasm is killing itself, but that's very fine as well. I don't even want to counter this. I don't think it's worth it, TBH. No, don't need it. Alright, there's a lethal threat. And I don't think anything in his deck can deal 4 damage. I guess I could deploy this right now, just in case. It's gonna be a 2/2 next turn. Yeah, that's the only thing that really helps him here. The Fervent Champion. Good draw. Could have won with it, but GG's. Alright, welcome to round number 4. And I want to keep this. I think I'm just gonna shock here. Want to be able to respond, and I don't want this to be a steam vents. So now that I've kind of settled on the list for the most part, I've started to... Oh, this could be John's Saga? John non-Saga? John Saga, okay. So at the very least, this means that there's no turn 2 Ren and 6, which, you know, I like. I think I want to keep this. He's probably going to go with the Saga turns. Alright, so... Don't want to shock here. I definitely want to have my Drownloch up, just in case. Because my opponent doesn't really know what's going on yet, right? But getting to fetch for a Triumph is also not too bad. So we're gonna go with the Polluted Delta here. Yeah, I've started updating my list for the most part. And a couple of cards are still on the way, but I'm getting closer to actually building the deck and paper as well in the same version. And I've gone to multiple events as well, so I'm gonna kill both of these. Because I think the only thing that my opponent can play here is a Ragavan. And as long as there's, like, don't have to be scared of a Ren and 6, I don't care. Yeah, it's a spell bomb. Makes sense. And another Urza Saga. So, do I want to force my opponent to use the spell bomb here? I could also theoretically force him to use it on himself. Would there be any case where, yeah, probably want to be able to also cast the stomp off the Bone Crusher Giant just in case. Okay, so opponent doesn't do anything. No, the Brazen Bar is still decent. So my opponent can crack the Nil Spell Bomb, but I do get to get in with the Snapcaster Mage. Interesting. But I'm basically fine with this, right? So there's a lot of graveyard hate from my opponent here. Yeah, that's fine. Alrighty. I don't even mind the endurance, TBH. Like, I could attack here, but that's too obvious. My opponent will just let my Snapcaster through. So, I think at this point in the game, I'd rather have him utilize his mana than, because he's like drawing a shit ton of cards anyway. So I want this card to be sacrificed in order to well, that's fine. That's his best play here. That's fine. Because if he utilizes the Spellbomb here to exile his own graveyard, I think it's still a win. Makes Reanimator a lot worse. My Brazen Boar can get rid of the construct. Alright, best draw, probably a K command. Second best draw, potentially a Snapcaster Mage. Because I can just go Bolt Snap Bolt. But I could also wait with that. Like if I shock here, then I can block, do something, right? Block Bolt. Also for Ragavan, potentially. I think they're playing Ragavans. Well, let's just shock here into the Happily Ever After. John Saga has made, I don't want to say comeback, but has had a very reasonable showing lately in a couple of bigger events. All right. So maybe it's better for me to actually puncture the Liliana there. Then play the Snapcaster Mage, target Drownloch, have the Liliana resolve, and then I can drown that thing so that I get a clean shot here. Otherwise, that would be an inferior play, I think. Alright, discard terminate. It's of course possible that, yeah, that's fine. Rather my Snapcaster Mage than my life total. Nah, not against the Liliana. Okay. Let's see what my opponent does. I think I'm going to counter this. TBH. My opponent could of course be saying, hey, I need to maintain some sort of card here for the Brazen Borer. But he then knows what I'm going to draw next, which I also don't want. The worst possible thing would be for my opponent to have a Renin 6 in hand as well. And then I'm going to counter this. He's going to play the Renin 6 to return a Verdant Catacombs, and then he discards the Verdant Catacombs. So I guess I'm going to let this resolve. Alright, so opponent wants to draw whatever he has on top, right? And he wants to keep his cards in hand as well. I'm going to draw another card though, so I don't even know if I really... Like, I'm just going to play the Brazen Bar right here. My opponent very likely does have a solution for it, but he needs to have another either Terminate or Lightning Bolt. And we have another Snap, which is also nice. I don't know. This isn't over yet. This is not over yet. Could be a... Oh, okay. Liliana. So I could be going with a Snap counterspell here. Instead of going... Like, the Cryptic Command is still pretty versatile, and I know that my opponent doesn't really have a good solution for creatures right now. And there's also likely no Goyf in his back pocket. I mean, it's possible. I guess. But it's a Renin 6, which I'm fine with. Like, he can kill Brazen Borer, yeah. And then we're still trading basically 1 for 1. We still have a threat on the board. Our opponent's very light on cards in hand. Oh, Grist. Oh, we need to count that one. So there is a case for returning my Snapcaster Mage to my hand here. But I'm not going to do that because John is playing a lot of removal spells. And it turned out pretty decently for us. We can still cast a lot, although I cannot cast Snap Cryptic here due to the Pithing Needle. Which is a little bit unfortunate because, of course, it was a little bit... So, I think we have lethal here, right? I can 8, 10, well, if he fetches there, we have lethal. But I might just want to wait for one more turn. I think I'm going to go Snap Consider here. All for what? All for Snapcasters, yeah, that's true. So would have drawn another Cryptic, and then from there, we definitely don't lose. Perfect. So, overwhelmingly happy here. I definitely want to have the Flame Blitz. I want to have the Alpine Moon, so I want to have these, which is great. Don't want to have that. So I need solutions for creatures, I need solutions for planeswalkers, I need solutions for graveyards. And I need solutions. I definitely don't want to have the Brazen Borrow though. Or do I? I mean, obviously I still have to fight constructs, right? Phew, that's difficult. So I'm gonna get rid of the Bone Crusher Giant. I think the Brazen Borer is like a one-off because it's good against constructs, but it's so bad against so much else of the deck. Maybe I want to discard the Brazen Borer. Maybe I just want to go with Necroplasm. Although on the draw, Brazen Borer does have a couple of good things. And our opponent is not... Well, could be playing Boil, I guess. But probably a little bit slower than a typical Junglist. Necroplasm is potentially a little bit too much. So I'm going to go with this setup, I think. I think that's fine. Well, that's definitely not a keep. So I'm gonna keep the Croxa here. Of course, my opponent is playing, well, might just be dead. Yeah. Probably not gonna work out in our favor. Oh, we already took a mulligan. Like, there's just a limited amount of things that we can do. And we have so many removals, like 1 mana removal spells, where even on the draw here, there, of course, is one of them. Also, just an amazing card here. Yeah, well, that thing's fucking bad. Alright, so... Gonna ditch this. No. This isn't looking good, TBH. So we can try to block the Ragavan with our Snapcaster. Probably not gonna work out, I'm not gonna lie. Obviously our opponent does want to utilize the, where's the Saga there? It's a little bit weird that, you know, we haven't drawn. Yeah, it does have the Lightning Bolt. And so our only option basically is now finding another land and stealing the thing. Alright. I mean, it's not great. It's Everything's not great here. Could have a Veil of Summer as well. If he does, then we can just concede. But really unlucky with what we've drawn here. But our opponent might not have a green source. And if that's the case, you know, we shall see. We shall see. Yeah, he's probably gonna go with the... I might not even... Like, maybe he boarded out the Pithing Needle here. Another Saga Lantern. Okay. Does have a basic forest. Okay, so basically... we just need to get rid of the constructs here. A little bit more difficult. Easier said than done, apparently. Okay, so we're on the play this time. Still kind of happy with what I've boarded. I just got really unlucky there, I think. So our opponent's hating our graveyard a lot. So probably one less Croxa, just... Yeah. I don't think we can keep this. It's like... not a good hand. Right, so this we can keep. I think I want to deploy the Flame Blitz right at the start. And I think I'm gonna get rid of the Bloodsheath Thirst instead, because we do have the Lightning Bolt to take care of a Ragavan. And we do have the Flame Blitz to take care of Planeswalkers, so the only thing that really fucks us is a Tarmogoyf, which we haven't seen yet, but probably still is in the deck. So the play is Flame Blitz right now. Which will hopefully keep the board clean of any Planeswalkers. At least for a bit. Our Junt does have a couple of solutions for it. Alright, just a Ragavan, which I'm fine with. Now, I think actually, like already a little bit flooded, so I think we're going to go with the Polluted Delta here. We're going to kill the Ragavan, and we're going to keep maintain the option of cycling the Xanthus Launch. Exactly for this reason, by the way, as well. So, he's gonna take our Kolaghan's Command, and does have another Ragavan. Oh my fucking god! Well, we do have something else though too. So I'm doing it in my main phase because I don't want to run into a Veil of Summer, which I expect my opponent to have. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god. So our opponent kept a 2-lander, fetched for a Blood Crypt instead of a green source, and then was just relying on his Ragavan to connect, I guess. Super bad, like really weird. So now, perfect find would be an Alpine Moon. Hers isn't bad either, I guess. Unless our opponent's also sandbagging K commands. Which apparently might not be. So now I'm gonna wait just in case there is a Ren at 6. Well, looks like we might be getting fucked again by... Where's the Sagas? Okay. So, good about this is the fact that, I mean, my opponent might very well have an endurance. That is very possible. But if he doesn't, then the snappy snap is going to be pretty decent. So I'm going to wait for his turn here. It's very likely going to utilize the things. And then I'm going to go with the Snapcaster. Alright, so apparently no... no endurance in hand or no other green card, which is also a possibility, I guess. So the good thing about our situation right now is that our unlicensed hearse is going to be bigger. Than most cards that he's bringing to the table right now. Also, he still didn't find a green source. Does have Mishra's Bauble though. Alright, so we're definitely going to go after all the lands here. Okay, hopefully something good. Like a... I guess I can crew here. Play the other unlicensed hearse. And then from here on out, I actually don't... Like, I only want to see creatures, basically. Like, everything else is already almost irrelevant. Is he gonna go for the Saga construct? We don't know. We don't know. No, he isn't. So it's very possible that he's gonna go with a Liliana here. Also possible, of course, that our opponent actually drew a green source. I probably need to get rid of my Snapcaster, just for the sake of crewing my hearses. Oh, opponent is actually pretty desperate in finding a land. Okay, found the basic forest. So best draw would probably be a Tasker. Like, our opponent like just has Lilianas to get rid of it, and maybe a Terminate, but that probably was boarded out. And Tasker can provide a lot of value here, both in regards to crewing and in regards to... Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, that's his best solution here for the Snapcaster Mage. He's gonna get killed by the Flame dude But that speaks volumes already. Come on, Tasker. Come on. Consider. So I need some sword. Ooh, this is pretty dope actually. Is this dope enough? Yeah, no, I can't put this into the bin. I really can't. And the question then is, I mean, the Liana dies. I probably want to keep it up. So the question here is, both Croxa could be a good draw. Tasker, of course, off the top here would be a phenomenal draw. I could still play it. But I probably also want to keep a little bit up for opposing stuff. At least we invalidated Ren and 6 entirely here. Yeah, this is what I thought. Really can't counter this. Yeah, go ahead. All right, so there's the Goyf. The Goyf. Come on, deck. No! Oh, fuck. Alright, so we gotta discard this and draw land. Yeah, that was a little bit... Maybe I should have been more cautious here. Maybe I should have been more cautious. It's not over yet, but now it's gonna be very difficult. Like, we had the shot there to get rid of, or just find a creature that would have already been enough. Of course, we can shrink it down, but now he also does have another Saga, the third. Now it's gonna get difficult. It does have another one. And this turns, like, this flips things upside down a little bit. So I'm gonna get rid of this because I don't have a sorcery in my graveyard, and then I have to get rid of the Snapcaster as well, I think. Could be a mistake, of course, in case we draw like a K command. Well, we already drew 2, so yeah, let's shrink it down one more time. And then it's just a 3/4, and I think that's okay. Okay. So I got 6, 8 here, and I got 5 here. So I could be bouncing the Tarmogoyf, I guess. But I think these lists are running Veil of Summer. And if I'm gonna be running into a Veil of Summer here, okay, so now I can do it actually. Yeah, that's gonna die, but I don't really mind. Mm-hmm. It's a Ragavan. And he wants to deploy that thing. So let's exile 2 cards. We cannot return the hers anyway. I think he doesn't have another removal spell for our unlicensed hers. So what happens here if I attack with it? Like, he probably just goes with a Saga, right? But the Saga is gonna get down. I think I'm just gonna keep back here for another turn. Now I have Hall of Storm Giants. I do not know if my opponent does have a solution to my unlicensed hers. I can block here pretty well. I could of course also attack, but as I said, like, that's just gonna be chump blocked. Very, very, very tight game. I think we've like flooded out a lot. Not really drawn a lot of action here. I think we were also on a mulligan though. So yeah, there was a drawback anyway. So my plan is to, if he attacks, crew the hearse. Probably doesn't attack though. Okay, so let's see. So I need to kill the Ragavan, and I think I want to kill a construct. So destroy target artifact and deal 2 damage, right? And then we're gonna attack with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he has to probably block it, right? So 1, 2, 3. And then this play means I'm opening myself up to a Ragavan to a certain degree, but also my opponent cannot really attack because I do have both hers and Hall of Storm Giants as a backup. Oh, interesting. Very, very interesting. So if he doesn't equip the Shadow Spear now, then he's dead to a bolt. I would have very much expected. Now, also, he's dead to the Brazen Borer, which he cannot block, and apparently doesn't have a solution to in terms of. Is this? Oh, Brennan 6. Yeah. Just to get rid of the Brazen Borer, which is fine. Okay, so that's probably Goif. So now, but now my opponent's dead to like all sorts of things, right? He's dead to a bolt, dead to a Snapcaster Mage, he's dead to like everything. That was just not correct. That was not correct. GG's. Alright, welcome to round number 5 here. I think we have a keeper. Keep. Polluted Delta, go. Alright, let's mirror that play. Okay, thankfully not the mirror. So there's really like, oh my goodness, we're playing against Dredge. There's basically nothing that I... Oh no, no, we're not playing against Dredge, we're just playing against... I should probably turn that sound off. Reanimator here. So if he does have a persistent hand, then he could already have a solution here. Must not be the case, could be the case though. Discarding Thoughtseize is also somewhat suspicious. Yeah, alright, he got it. He got it. And we cannot really get rid of that Archon. So I think it's basically over here. Yeah. Well, we could draw a Brazen Burrow, I guess. So let's try to do that. Turn 2 Archon is... We also do have Otawara. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. But Otawara takes forever, okay. Don't think. We could have waited for one more turn, but I don't want to show him too much. Alright, so we want to have all of this. Oops. This one's probably bad. Yeah, it was best case scenario for opponent. Let's see. This time we're on the play. We both have a counterspell or an unlicensed hearse, which both I'm fine with. So we're going to start off with this. So I gotta admit that I'm missing discard magic to a certain degree, but can't always have everything. Yeah, he has to go for the hearse, yeah. I don't know what he's thinking about here, but Definitely has to go for the hearse. Might actually also have a grief here. So our opponent's playing the Faithful Mending or something. Or Hour of Mending or whatever it's called. It's basically Faithless Looting, but the opposite. Otherworldly Gaze. Also a very strong card. Like, your opponent does have a lot of flashback cards. Just a lot of value. But I cannot counter any of these. Like, wouldn't make sense. We need to find either other unlicensed hearse or a Void Walker. So this is also something that I really don't like about Otawara. Basically indicates whenever your opponent doesn't have another land to play, because nobody wants to play Otawara early on. So I'm going to go with a heavy red base here, just so... Actually, K-Command is actually pretty good in the matchup, because we can just return the Archon, or whatever, to his hand in response to a Persist. So, Otherworldly Gaze, while not providing real core advantage, it does definitely provide a lot of consistency for graveyard-based decks. Alright, so I'm going to be a little bit aggressive here, because our opponent is stuck on mana, which is a little bit surprising because he didn't draw there. But I don't think that like he can go off with these 3 mana here, end of turn. Could be wrong, of course. Whoops. Yep, Tainted Indulgence. So Archon is in the graveyard, but yeah, as I said, like, Persist is sorcery. I think he only has sorcery action here, right? So he could have a double turn where he wants to go persist, or whatever. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna let this resolve. I can respond to almost anything here if I really want to. Discard a failed push. So no, these decks are playing this priest. Another one. Okay, it does have Malekith's Rebirth. Why can I not target that thing? Oh. Well, okay. I actually never knew. I guess I never tried to return a card from my opponent's graveyard. That's actually embarrassing. But yeah, also pretty retarded. But anyway, we're gonna return and have him discard, I guess. Yeah, a little late. A little late. We cannot win this anymore.